Salutations, fellow readers. I've been acquiring books for over 3 decades, and I'm an English teacher, so by now I just have more books than I can or want to reread. No hate at all to the creators or fans of the books I'm going to be decluttering. I actually like a lot of them, as you will discover, and I am grateful for them. I just figured it'd be better to donate them to friends and their children, local schools and little free libraries and used bookshops, and mailing some of the paperbacks to Books Behind Bars. I will leave a link in the description if you would also like to make a donation mailing some of your paperbacks to prisoners who could benefit from them. It took me months to go through all of these books. Just compare how small my kitten was in relation to the books when I started versus how large he was when I finished. And at first, I was filming clips vertically because I thought that I would be doing a short. But it became clear after a while I would need to film in horizontal format to make a long form video about it. UNHAUL videos are some of the most satisfying for me to watch, so I'm actually excited to make my own to share with you. Sorry that not all of the clips are in the same format. However, you will be able to clearly see the title of every book that I am unhauling, and I will speak in detail about some of them, but not all of them, because there are hundreds, and we would be here forever if I talked about all of them in detail. I will keep a counter up on the screen so you can see how many books I will be decluttering and how many I've read versus how many I have not. Let's get started. Here are 16 books I'm going to be passing on to my friends' children so they can practice reading aloud to themselves. I know that they are big fans of Disney and female empowerment. These are books I'm not going to read again. These are books I didn't read at all. I am super interested in this one, but the thing is, the font size is just way too tiny for me to read. And I like this trilogy, so I bought myself a new edition of it. This is the edition of the Merlin trilogy by Mary Stewart that I got. I tabbed where each book in the trilogy is, since weirdly there isn't a table of contents to tell me that. I'm a huge fan of Arthurian retellings, if you couldn't tell. Tonya Golden's Changing the Equation, Black Women in STEM is a good resource for the classroom. It has colored text and interesting information that's not too densely packed on the page, with lots of photographs. Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire is just not my favorite in the Wayward Children series. It was okay, but I'm not going to read it again. My favorite is book 2, but it works as a standalone, called Down Among the Sticks and Bones. It reads kind of like a gothic cautionary fairy tale about the impact of bad parenting, and I recommend that. Time for Fairy Tales anthology I'm not keeping because it's not child friendly. It has so much text that is small print and densely packed, so it's hard for children to read. I'm going to keep other fairy tale anthologies I have, such as these for Brothers Grimm and Hans Christian Andersen, illustrated by Anastasia Archipova, because it has the text larger, widespread apart, with lots of engaging, colorful images. This is a beautiful version of The Secret Garden, the Once Upon a Story version. It has full page colored pictures throughout, and it has the unabridged text by Burnett. However, I have another version of The Secret Garden with colored illustrations and the unabridged text. It's a different art style, kind of a manga style, but I'm gonna keep that one instead because it's so much physically smaller that it takes up less room on my shelf. These are a dozen books that I have never read, about half fiction, half nonfiction, so I'll just shout out one of each for you. I think that anyone who's interested in origami would probably like this practical origami book because it has very clear step-by-step directions with images. And I really love the first book in the Mr. Lemoncello series, but this one is book 5, and I just don't have the others, so there's no point in me keeping that one. Well, I wound up buying the entire series in hardback because I just love the wordplay and word puzzles in them so much. But never fear, my decluttering numbers won't be affected because I'm still going to get rid of the paperback of the first book that I was originally going to keep now that I have this lovely hardback signed by the author. I wish they had kept the art style of the original 4 books because I think it's more whimsical and unique than the cartoon art style they changed to, but at least the books are still the same height. That's the main thing. These are 6 books that I never finished because the writing styles didn't work for me. No shade to any of them except for the Snark Handbook because it has multiple quotes in it that the author thinks is funny about sex from the actor Woody Allen. And this book was published after the allegations about that actor came out. I would like to point out I tried reading Angels and Demons by Dan Brown 3 separate times and I couldn't finish it anytime. So even though I like the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons films, the books are not for me. These are 8 books that I have duplicates of, and 5 I really love them, and I'm happy to pass on my doubles so someone else can enjoy them. The other 3, I'm not sure I'm going to keep the other copies either. These are 10 books that I have read twice. The Fairy Wars series by Herbie Brennan is fun, but I really only see myself reading the first book another time, and that's why I'm just going to keep book 1. I really love some of the subplots in the Secrets of the Immortal series by Michael Scott, but there's a lot of them that I'm not interested in. These covers are just so lovely that I think someone would want to have this collection. And then these 9 books I read once, and I'm not going to read them again. This illustrated edition of Beowulf by Seamus Heaney has really nice images on every page adjacent to the text. They are sometimes landscapes or photos of artifacts. I recommend that to any Beowulf fans. And I really liked The Crystal Shard by Salvatore. I just don't see myself reading it again and then finishing their trilogy. And I don't want to support the author Neil Gaiman anymore after so many women have come forward. For now, I'm going to keep the Good Omens novel because Terry Pratchett and the illustrator contributed to it as one of my favorite novels. I'm absolutely getting rid of the script Gaiman wrote to adapt the text to the screen though, because it's not good. Such as this description here of the Garden of Eden, describing Adam and Eve as tastefully naked, and then there's a tasteful blackout. It's repetition of the same adjective, and blackouts can't be tasteful. Gradual or subtle maybe, but not tasteful. Describing Adam and Eve as I would not make them white people is performative activism. Nothing meaningful, such as the Garden of Eden was likely in Africa, so make sure you get African actors. No, that's just Gaiman wanting diversity points, as he would often do when he would claim to be a feminist, and then a lot of women came out with allegations against him. So this can go away. Right now our total is this. Oh yeah, go me, go me. Let's see if we can double that. Here are 8 books that I just had for my classroom. They're good books, but I am not going to reread them to myself. Child's Introduction to Poetry by Driscoll is a great resource for the classroom because it has engaging, colorful illustrations and information about both poets and different types of poetry with examples. These 19 books are duplicates of some of my favorites that I would lend out to students or friends, and I have no need for those anymore. I might gift them to people though. These 18 books I read and enjoyed, and I would recommend them. However, I'm not going to reread them in physical form, perhaps digital or ebook form, but there's no need for me to keep the physical text. These 4 books I did not like, even though I liked other books by a couple of those authors. They did not work for me, so I would not reread them. The reason that I disliked The Heroes of Olympus by Rick Riordan and Spirit Animals by Brendan Mull is because I do not prefer to have multiple perspectives in children's literature. An omniscient narrator is fine. I just do not like close readings from that many individuals. There were also too many romantic subplots in Heroes of Olympus for my personal taste. However, I am keeping these 2 texts from that series just because they have Nico's perspective, and I adore that character. These 12 I didn't finish. Most of them are non-fictions where I didn't like the writing style, or they had their information poorly organized, so it wouldn't be a good reference book. The other books that I didn't finish are anthologies of short stories written by multiple authors. I just found that I prefer to have longer fiction or the collection all written by the same author. These 9 books I didn't read. Most of them are library discards and or books in series, and I already have a lot of series that I want to start or finish, so I don't want to look to any more. I did wind up reading Beautiful Little Fools by Gillian Cantor. It's a feminist lesbian retelling of The Great Gatsby with a pretty gilded cover and deckled edges. I couldn't get into it because the plot too closely resembles the original Great Gatsby, which I disliked. But if you're looking for a feminist version of The Great Gatsby with more sex and murder than the original, then this would be for you. These 41 books are just books that I liked when I was younger, and when I reread them, I didn't connect with them as much. The only ones that I would say are bad, though, are The Bailey School Kids. The others I would still recommend to people who like what the book has to offer. Cirque du Freak by Darren Shan is a great horror series I find too depressing to read now that I've lost many loved ones in real life and am therefore more easily upset by the death and suffering of characters in fiction. When I stop connecting to a piece of art, I'm happy to pass it on to someone else who can love it as much as I did in the past. The art didn't change, I did, and I embraced my own growth. I almost chose to keep The Tale of the Five by Diane Duane for sentimental reasons. It's the first traditionally published novel with a queer protagonist I've ever read, and it's out of print and unavailable from my library, so I couldn't read it again if I wanted to. However, I've already read it twice, and I doubt I'll read it a third time. I'd rather give someone else the chance to experience it. And then these 10 books are just better suited to someone else, even though I love the Jim Kay illustrations. They're just really too heavy for me to hold. Now our total is this. Or is it? Dun dun dun! I didn't think I was going to reread these books, but in case I do, these get to live another day on my shelves after all. Rumpelstiltskin's just my favorite fairy tale. Being the morally gray protagonist hundreds of years before it was cool is totally short king behavior. And if you want to read a nonfiction about why it's healthy to walk shoeless on the bare earth, I totally recommend Earthing by Clinton O'Bear over watching the documentary, because the documentary focuses mainly on the anecdotes and the book has more data. I love the illustrations in Eyes That Kiss in the Corners so much that I actually ordered another children's book illustrated by Dung Ho. Because I decided to keep 6 books, it might appear that the grand total of books I'm decluttering is too low. However, I just finished reading a few books and, drum roll, I'm not going to read these 2 again because they were just kind of average. And these 2 books, while they're very nice additions, I have friends that would definitely appreciate them more than me. Woo! I decided to keep these books in case I want to reread them after all, but never fear, because I'm going to be parting ways with these 7 books. The only one that I read was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and I'm not really a big fan of contemporary family drama, so it just didn't work for me, but I think other people would like it. Kind of a shame though, because I have this nice anniversary edition, because I was expecting to like it. I am still interested in the other 6 books, but the thing is, my list of books to be read is way too long and I need to cut it down, and I'm simply not as excited about these as I am the other books on my list. I wound up reading book 4 in the Reckless series, and it was okay, but I'm still going to declutter it along with book 3 and the companion novella, because I don't like the direction that the story went in, and if book 5 ever comes out, I will not be reading it despite the cliffhanger of book 4. I will keep the first 2 books in the series because I liked them and they can be read on their own as a duology. This is an amazing total. It feels good to pass on books to others, and it was great to see how many books I had read and reread. I'm really proud of myself, and I'm glad I got to share this with you. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Like if you appreciate the months of work that I put into this video. Comment below if you have thoughts on any of the hundreds of books that were discussed. And subscribe to see more of me in the future. Happy reading!